Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the Mokanaman at YouTube with a end of year vlog. We're approaching the end of 2015 and as usual in tradition, I'd like to do an overview of roughly what I got done in the way of finished models. As 2015 has been an interesting and struggle of a year for many, including myself. In the hobby, it has been amazing with competitions, the Gunpla Builders World Cup model releases, greater availability of modeling tools, resources, and of course, more resources online in the form of tutorials, communities, and people that you can meet, things that you can learn. So, I'm really happy to join all of my colleagues, my friends out there, and new viewers, and seeing what we can achieve next year. As usual, I've achieved and built a lot of kits. I made a few tutorials and other videos. Probably the most successful and what I'm really happy with besides the tutorials is the airbrushing series, and the Q&A has gone extremely well as well. Now, I made a series of tanks, 72nd Armour. Really enjoy that. The first one is a Soviet tractor. The rest of them are various brands, vintages, types, fantasy or real historical tanks. Fairly easy builds. Really worked on trying to get more definition, more realistic weathering, and light and colour tones, as well as realism across all of them. A lot of fun. Don't take them far too seriously, but I think they've fleshed out to be a lot more interesting and fun looking than the tanks made last year. I will definitely be sure to make more for next year. I got a couple on the go, and it is something that I'll keep fiddling around and actually want to have a greater output in 2016 over what was done this year. The rest will be my 15 major projects, as well as the final and flagship Gunpla Builders World Cup entry. This one was very early in the year and heavily focusing on 3D printing. I built the grimoire when Reconquista was a thing, making all sorts of small parts, including its backpack and gun as 3D printed components, as well as a large base, pushing that as hard as I can. Also focused on shading and the improvement of my airbrushing and weathering, as there are some things I'm not 100% happy with. It is a bit dark, and I could have done some elements of the painting better, more interesting, more brighter colours. It did do very well in its group build, and stands okay and well as a standalone display model. At the same time, in the group Gunpla Builders Australia, we had a interesting shits and giggle group build, the My Little Pony Challenge. I snapped this pop kit, which is a Hasbro pony plastic model kit, a real thing. Got the video for Quinn Mother SD kit, and as I really like the composition and how it snaps together and the flow of the build. There's a couple of areas due to being rushed is a little rough, some seam areas, putty areas and scratch build areas. The painting, I made a few mistakes, but again, I'm fairly happy with it. If I had more time, I think it would have been a much more smoother and nicer build. But how it stands, very pleased. It was quite fun to show off at competitions and live events for the interesting and novelty of the build with the other builds. Now, not much to say. This is a Zaku, an older one. A lot of fun building it. I just wanted to build a heap of old Zakus I had for the Gunpla Builders World Cup and wanted to treat each kit as a standalone project, not to make the burden of the project so heavy. Focused very heavily on light and multi-colours of shades to make a mono-colour kit with a bit of weathering and lots of chip weathering. Very happy how this came out. I think it's a very interesting look and a painting style I'd like to achieve and do on future kits. Now, this model has stretched out from 2014 It's a B Club 1100 Leo, one of my first very heavy and very large resin kits. I made a few mistakes, had to trim or strip the paint and rebuild it a couple of times, thus the reason why so many months was invested. The final rendition with the diorama and the painting I was fairly happy with, displayed them at many events, and has given me the confidence to definitely attack bigger and more resin projects, especially more of my stock of original and very expensive big club models. The second model, I spent a long time for my Gunpla Builders World Cup, a very old Zaku, and quite a controversial build when posted online. Decided to have a lot of fun in modifying him and just added all these extra detail, armor plates, as well as battle damage. I wanted to look like it's a post-war heavy modification upgrade, like a Soviet tank, reactive armor and armor plates added all over the place to just give it that edge compared to newer machines. I really like the look of it. I think it's cool. There's other things I could have done neater, and if I was to do it again, it would be more interesting and intense. But unfortunately, the backlash it has received, not too happy posting this around, and sort of withdrawn myself from some communities in how a standard is enforced. In my series and pursuit in playing with my 3D printer, I made this Star Destroyer. Originally it was made for me using a different 3D printer. The model was stolen. I had to reprint it and gone from scratch. After watching the Episode 7 Star Wars trailer, I was inspired to have a crashed Star Destroyer in the desert and had a lot of fun mucking around with it. As another quick 2-week build before Model Expo, I found this file off the Thingiverse website of a Cubone skull from Pokemon. This 3D file was actually hacked from a video game cartridge and modified. As excited as I was, I printed it off, cleaned it up, and spent a lot of time sanding, furtherly detailing, making a stand from scratch, and airbrushing and shading the skull for a little realism. I'd very much like to do more 3D printed models, clean them up and display them, as well as just develop the 3D printing series. It was a very fun project. Another Zaku, very similar to the other ones, for the Gunpla Builders World Cup diorama. I really liked the flow and enjoyed modifying and painting this a lot. As we slowly approached August, a lot of my attentions for a few months was getting out of my comfort zone and working on the biggest project I've ever undertaken in my hobby career, and this was another Zaku. This is the Zaku Sniper, HGUC Zaku 1. He is mostly covered in Zimmerit coating and had quite a bit of weathering, camouflage and freehand airbrushing. I really enjoyed painting and making this particular Zaku. As I slowly started running out of time, I put together this HGUC Zaku 2 F2. The Zaku 2 F2 HGUC kit is my most favourite model that Bandai has ever released, and enjoy building it. It had very slight modifications, though what I did with the painting I really enjoyed and was really pleased. Again, like the first Zaku, this is the sort of painting and shading scheme I would like to achieve on future models. Just the definition and the lights just really does it well for me. The salt weathering was a lot of fun and just loved the rust marks everywhere. This was a very enjoyable and a labour of love project. Another theme this year, and after the Gunpla Builders World Cup, was pushing myself outside of my comfort level and doing things that I've always wanted to do, and just pushing my skill level and competency. I had to go at a resin anime figure, and a particularly tricky one, being half naked, very fleshy. Not too bad as a first attempt. I'm extremely pleased with it. A lot of effort's gone into it. A few very obvious mistakes were made, but has definitely given me the confidence to play with more resin, particularly expensive resin kits and figures. Working on another one. Would like to at least get 2 done for 2016, but not complaining whatsoever. Would love to see a big improvement in my future figurative works. Besides tanks, Gundams and figures, I really enjoy modifying toys and making these Mokanaman customs. It has been about 1.5 years since I've made my last one, and at an event I've put together, built, painted and finished this Mokanaman custom in 2 days in an event where I also slowly got sick. It was a lot of fun, not my best work, but very interesting by the fact that it was a speed build and something that, again, I would like to do more of next year, and there is a couple in the works. Getting close to the end of the year, I was invited to write in for a magazine and produced this vintage Macross kit. Vintage kits is something I really enjoy and do from time to time. I do have a backlog of quite a few vintage models. They are a challenge to build, something you really need to take your time, clean up nicely and be very creative to get something that is definitely obsolete looking and displaying it nicely for competitions and displays. Put a ton of effort into this piece, extremely proud of the colour. It is a bit unorthodox in its weathering and presentation, but the storyline and the background of this machine is not exactly normal realistic canon in a military or standard sci-fi setting. A lot of fun, 3D printed diorama, very rare piece, very happy to display this and quite proud. My very last build of the year, and is a bit of a pity for the majority of December. I couldn't get much done due to an overseas trip and a lot of work on my plate. This is a vintage model. I did a very clean colour scheme, candy coat, and a lot of modification to modernise this 80s model to be a bit more modern looking, a bit more interesting and detailed, with a 3D printed diorama, flock trees, and 3D printed internals. Lots of scratch building, lots of cutting, magnetizing, putting. Dragged quite a few tutorials out of this project and was just an absolute labour of love and a lot of fun. A ton of time was spent in both painting and building, and again, this is a standard of modelling I would like to keep up for next year. And finally, my very ambitious Gunpla Builders World Cup diorama, mostly 3D printed with up to 6 models and a scratch built piece as a centerpiece. I spent the majority of the year modeling, working solely on this one diorama. A lot of resources, time, 3D printing, 3D drawing, and just every skill and method and resource I've had under my belt placed purely into this one project. It did burn me out. It did definitely slow down my production of other projects and other models. A bit of a case of all of your eggs in one basket, but being my biggest project and something that's quite old 90s Warhammer inspired looking post-apocalyptic, really happy. And to tell the truth, if this is the ceiling or the absolute pinnacle or as far as I'm ever going to get in the hobby or modelling, I would be very happy to leave the hobby at this state. I've done a lot of work, I've done a lot of study, a lot of practice, and got far in both building and airbrushing. The fact is there is no ceiling. I'm going to keep working. I do have ideas and what I want to focus for next year, and there will be definitely more creative and interesting projects. I think with every year being pushing for something bigger, more intense, more uncomfortable to make, I might be going back to simple and honing some more basic skills before doing other insane things. 3D printing and airbrushing is always very big in my hobby as just basic tools and extra bits in my arsenal to add into the hobby. But might be scaling down, but not losing the intensity or passion I definitely have in this hobby. I do look very forward to what I have planned and wrapped up for 2016. I've got a refreshed palette. I've come back from a holiday, got some new toys, and I'm ready to go at it quite hard. There's a lot of opportunities. I've got all sorts of tutorials, projects, videos, series in the works. I've been approached and I've got some collaboration projects with companies and organisations in the future that will be worked on. There is a very bright future and a lot to do in the next year and just the general future of the video. I thank everyone for following me, watching me, and pretty much contributing to my content and the community. In conclusion of the year, there's been frustrating times. There has been hard times. Start of the year had some masking mistakes, some top coat mistakes, had to repaint a few models up the times to get the technique correct. The middle of the year there has been community issues. Don't really want to get too much into that. It's more of mixing with the right people and the wrong people. There has mostly been good. I thank everyone for watching, everyone for following. I enjoy everyone being colleagues, working, contributing with each other, trading ideas, trading techniques. We can all learn from each other. I look forward to seeing everyone in the new year. Keep building, keep contributing, keep posting, keep sharing. Thank you very much for watching. As always, until next time, and catch you all in 2016.